unexpected hire and a guy by the name of Joe Judge. He was with the Pats for 8 seasons. You'll be able to explain that, will you not?
I will. Breaking news is fun, Carrie. Breaking news is fun. Coaching carousel set to dizzy. And yes, the Giants are finalizing a deal to make Patriots special teams coordinator and wide receivers coach Joe Judge their next head coach. Judge, who just turned 38 last week, has been an assistant for 8 years under Bill Belichick. Also spent time on Nick Saban's staff at Alabama, so he's learned from two of the best. The man who broke that story, our NFL insider Adam Schefter, joins us now. Interesting here, Adam, that the Giants did not take the more senior member of Bill Belichick's staff, the OC, Josh McDaniels. They went with Judge. What more can you tell us about how this all went down?
Listen, Joe Judge spent Monday with Giants officials, and I was told that it was a very impressive interview. So impressive that the two sides began negotiations Monday night, which sent a signal to Matt Rule, the Panthers head coach, that obviously he might not have an opening in New York. The Giants obviously were willing or given the chance to match that offer, but they were down the road with Joe Judge, the Patriots special teams coordinator and wide receivers coach, and decided to stick with him. They were finalizing that deal this morning. Joe Judge is going to be the next head coach of the New York Giants, and they just felt incredibly impressed with him. I think the upset here is that Josh McDaniels, who was supposed to interview in New York with the Giants on Wednesday, didn't even get in the door. That the Giants saw enough from Joe Judge and felt comfortable enough with Joe Judge that they just moved ahead and hired him as their next head coach, never having spoken to Matt Rule or Josh McDaniels, with Matt Rule going to Carolina and Josh McDaniels now slated to interview in Cleveland on Friday with the Browns about their head coaching vacancy, with them being the last team here that has an opening.
All right, to add another twist to this story, the Giants have asked for and received permission from the Cowboys to speak with Jason Garrett about their vacancy at offensive coordinator. Ed Werder reporting that. What more do you know about that story?
David, I'm told that the Giants submitted this request on Sunday, that they were thinking of him as their offensive coordinator. They love Jason Garrett, much like Jerry Jones loved Jason Garrett, but the Giants had other head coaching candidates that they preferred, that they were always going to hire one of those. I don't believe, from all the conversations I've had around the league, that Jason Garrett ever was in play for the Giants head coaching job, but they were thinking of him as a potential member of the staff because he's worked for the organization before. He knows the Mara family. They have high regard for him. They know what he could bring for a young quarterback in Daniel Jones, and Joe Judge is going to need strong coordinators to help run the Giants offense and defense. And so Jason Garrett now becomes a candidate for the Giants offensive coordinator job, which I think is the job that they always were thinking of him in. He's not going to get a head coaching job in this particular cycle, maybe one day again, but right now the Giants are thinking of him as a potential coordinator.
All right, great resource for Joe Judge if Jason Garrett decided to go there as the OC. Let's go back to the Cleveland position. As you were saying, Josh McDaniels going to get an interview there. Who else might be in play for that last job?
David, let me spell out the Browns' head coaching interview schedule for you the rest of this week. On Wednesday, they're going to interview the Eagles' defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. On Thursday, Browns officials are going to be in Minnesota to interview the Vikings' offensive coordinator, Kevin Stefanski. On Friday, the aforementioned Josh McDaniels will be in Cleveland, at least he's scheduled to be in Cleveland, to interview with Browns officials. The team already has interviewed Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, the Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman. That gives you an idea here of what Cleveland is thinking at this point in time. I'm told the Browns want to have a coach in place by Saturday. McDaniels will be the last one to interview on Friday, and then the Browns will be able to make their decision about what they want to do going forward here.
The jobs are going fast and furious. The Browns, the last one open. Adam Schefter giving us the very latest there. Thank you, Adam. All right,
Thanks,
Carrie,
David.
back to you.
All right, David. So many of you may be asking, much like we were in the newsroom, who is Joe Judge? Judge would be joining the Giants again after 8 seasons with the Pats, just explained very well by that Adam Schefter guy. 2019 was his first coaching time as special teams coordinator and wide receivers coach. Judge originally joined New England as an assistant special teams coach in 2012, promoted in 2015. Prior to that, spent 3 seasons as an analyst at Bama under who else but Nick Saban. So let's bring in our analyst as well, Ryan Clark. RC, so we're sitting in the newsroom and we hear Joe Judge.
Right.
And of course we're like, wait, what? What happened? Explain that to us. Because it may seem to folks at home. But as Adam so clearly explained, apparently he was so impressive they needed not to go any further. So talk to me about what you first thought once you learned Joe Judge was the head coach.
Well, the same feeling you had when you hear John Harbaugh in Baltimore years ago, or when you hear Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh around that same time, just a year before. This is a guy who comes in, he blows away the Mara family with this interview. They understand he may be great as a leader of men. And listen, they've tried the offensive coordinator thing. You have Pat Shurmur, you go with McAdoo, and those guys don't work out. Sometimes you need someone that understands how to organize, how to energize, how to delegate. And it seems that Joe Judge has learned under the best. When you're a special teams coach, you deal with every player on the team, unlike an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. This is somebody who can have his pulse on a team and understand how things can work. I love the fact that the Giants went with their gut on who they felt did a great interview, on who they felt would fit what their vision was for this team. And so to me, this is a good hire. This is a hire that they went with their instincts and not based on what other people thought about their candidates.
Okay, so it's interesting that you say that and you're putting it into context that this guy is someone who talks and touches every single player on the team, so it makes sense. But if your first gut reaction is why not even listen to someone by the name of Josh Daniels, who everyone says is so amazing?
Right. Well, the thing I think is this guy blew you away. Listen, if you find the right one, it's not about continuing to date after you find her to see if maybe somebody is going to be better, because she's the one. And when you look at what they felt about this guy, they were already in the works of getting a contract done. So why continue to look? Why continue to cloud the picture if you feel like you found someone that can help your team win football games? You're coming from McAdoo. You're coming from Shurmur. You've been in this position 2 of the last 5 years. You need to figure out a way to get a long-term answer with Daniel Jones at quarterback. You know you're set there. Now you have a coach that you think can lead the team, not just work with your quarterback. If you want to ask how that works for picking a coach just to work with a quarterback or just to do offense, talk to John Dorsey about Freddie Kitchens. That lasted 1 year. Find your guy, not based on what other people think or what your quarterback wants, and that's how you win football games. If you look at the AFC North, their 2 best teams did that over a decade ago, and they still have their men.
All right, RC with the education, also some great dating advice. Again, the Giants have decided to hire Joe Judge as their head coach. Sit tight, RC. We'll be right back with you. David, I'll send it over to you.
Okay, Carrie. These hires not happening in a vacuum. Matt Rule had been scheduled to interview with the Giants, but earlier this morning, he agreed to become the new head coach of the Panthers. 7-year deal worth up to $70 million, according to Adam Schefter. Rule something of a turnaround artist at a couple stops in college football. Another younger coach, he's just 44, and as Adam reported, he got wind that the Giants were already down the road with Joe Judge, so he takes the Panthers spot. Rule turned Temple around. That program did not have a football tradition, a winning tradition. He made that a winner. Then his masterwork in Waco, taking over a dead-in-the-water, scandal-ridden program in 3 short years, had Baylor back on the national stage, won 11 games this season. And he's not completely bereft of NFL experience. Rule and O-line coach with the Giants in 2012. For more on this, let's bring in our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. So Joe Judge is happening with the Giants, so Matt Rule goes to the Panthers. Tell us how this all happened kind of in real time with one guy deciding based off of another guy.
Rule was a guy that Panthers owner David Tepper had targeted from the beginning of the process, going back more than a month to when he fired Ron Rivera. Recently, we had heard a lot of connections between Rule and the Giants and him being at the top of their list. But as you heard Adam say at the top of the show, Joe Judge was an intriguing candidate who really impressed them when he went in to talk to them. So you get to the point where you're talking about contracts and what it's going to look like, and they're sitting there with Joe Judge, who they really were maybe more impressed with than they even thought he would be. He comes from Bill Belichick. Obviously, they have tons of respect for that program and what the Patriots have accomplished. And they were comfortable with it to the point where they didn't even feel the need to pull in that Rule away from the Panthers offer to come and interview him. So I talked to somebody with the Giants shortly after Pat Shurmur was fired and was told, look, we're not looking for a play caller. We're looking for a leader. And I think either one of these guys would have fit that description, Matt Rule or Joe Judge, and they're going with the young guy. Be interesting to see who he gets for coordinators. If it's Jason Garrett, if there's a defensive coordinator out there with NFL head coaching experience, a young guy who's inexperienced like this is going to probably look to surround himself with guys who can help him learn the ropes of the head coach job.
Has Josh McDaniels had an interview yet for a head coaching spot?
Has he interviewed? Did he interview with the Giants? I believe he did.
Did he?
I
Okay.
gotta go through my notes. But look, he.
Is it telling that he is not getting some of these jobs? A guy that was sort of under him.
He can be. I think he can be picky because he thinks he has a good job. I think the thing you hear about McDaniels is, you know, he does not think that his current job, offensive coordinator of the Patriots, ranks behind every NFL head coach job in terms of quality. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Browns. Obviously, the last musical chair out there. He's a guy that Browns owner Jimmy Haslam had liked 5 years ago, and he didn't go take the interview at that point. We'll see what happens if he gets the job, or if Kevin Stefanski, who was a finalist for the Browns job last year, that went to Freddie Kitchens, maybe he can blow them away in yet another interview this week and get the job if the Vikings are knocked out this weekend.
Josh McDaniels, of course, took the job with the Colts for a short time, brought Joe Judge with him, and then they both pulled out at the same time and went back to New England. So it's been a crazy day as far as the coaching concerned. Thank goodness we have our insiders, Dan Graziano, here shedding some light on what's going on. Carrie?
All right, we're going back and forth. We'll circle back to who this Matt Rule character is. Rule takes over, as you so eloquently explained, David, earlier, over a team that's fallen on hard times since going